We're back. See? It's like we just changed TV stations, right? Everybody good? I can't hear anybody.
Yes.
All right, wonderful, that's good. Welcome back to Flickr One. We are continuing our discussion today, and we got a panel discussion right now. The title is Profit Up, Churn Down, the Power of Hosting Ecosystems. But we got kind of a who's who of people who've been in and around the hosting and infrastructure space forever. Longer than I have, some of these guys, but I won't point fingers. But let's go ahead. I'm going to let each person. First of all, welcome my panelists. Everybody say hello. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So one by one, let's start over here with you, Manny. Introduce yourself, talk about your company, and let us know what you do.
Sure. Hey, guys. I just realized I have an old title on here. I think that's probably my fault, or someone copied from LinkedIn. So I was the vice president of product at a company called Open Exchange. We're an email hosting provider based in Germany. But I have recently moved into running business development in Americas. And Hazard will introduce himself, and I'm actually formerly of Rackspace, where I was a co-worker with Hazard.
Great. Yeah, I'm Brian Hazard. Everybody I work with calls me Hazard, as he just did. I've been a product manager working in the space for a little over 10 years. I'm glad I have this here to remind me who I am. I've worked in blockchain and email most of my career, two different sort of portions of my career. Yeah, excited to be here.
Well, you know, first of all, you know, everybody in IT thinks they work with hazards, so you know, you're not you're a shoe in.
Today I'm at Rackspace, working in the email division. I'm excited to be here.
Perfect. Joe.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Joe Morgan. I'm the Joe of Joe's Data Center. And we currently are a traditional data center that has been transitioning into backup, cybersecurity, and cloud services.
Brilliant. Nice. Go ahead.
Patrick Dolan. Hi, everyone. Part of Virtuoso. So my background is I've been working with hosting providers, and you know, while at Virtuoso, I have a background with hosting providers. And then, you know, I also have a background as an end user. I think sometimes that's the most important thing, is to understand what happens when everything's said and done. So, you know, I'm excited to talk today about, you know, some of my experiences with Virtuoso, go into detail about what we're doing today, and then just talk about service providers as a whole.
Right. So, what's the purpose? What are we really doing here today? And I'm going to give a little bit of, you know, I'm going to reflect back in time a little bit, right? When I first, you know, I've been in technology most of my career, and in the early days, you know, way back when pterodactyls were delivering the internet, we took and you had three segments. You had infrastructure hosting providers, you had ISVs, software vendors, and you had service providers, right? And everybody hated everybody, right? It was every time something went wrong, it was you know, what they call a Mexican standoff. Everybody blamed somebody else. Everybody pointed back and forth. You know, that's back when, you know, almost the Microsoft model. Everybody was siloed in what they did and didn't really worry about anything else that was going on. But the world has become a completely different place. You know, starting in the early 2000s, everybody kind of learned that one of the best things to do was to start working together, integrate with different platforms. You weren't necessarily competing with everybody. You weren't necessarily just in your own little silo. You were going from there. So I want to talk first to Virtuoso and Open Exchange, and you guys can decide who goes first. That's been kind of your model. I've seen you guys integrate with companies like Acronis and like control panels and like billing systems throughout the years. Talk a little bit about your history with that, and I'm going to break the rules, and I'm going to let Virtuoso go first.
So the integrations, or I think first of all, you know, maybe just the whole industry as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, about kind of how things are, and how things were, how things are, and how things are moving forward. So we've had multiple conversations about service providers. So the way things used to be is you had the infrastructure providers, you know, that did everything. You know, they did everything for the hosting provider. They managed everything, managed the customers, managed the hardware, the software, you name it. And the way things are more, we're seeing a lot more of just, you have service providers, and then you have the actual infrastructure providers. So a lot of them don't want to run their own infrastructure anymore. So we're really starting to see a kind of a blending of what's going on today. So a lot of the new HSPs, the hosting service providers, they're just looking at it, hey, where am I going to run off of? Am I going to run off of one of the big hyperscalers? Or am I going to try to find somebody that's going to be, help them manage their infrastructure? And so we're seeing a lot of that, and I think it's really revolutionizing what the industry is going to look like. It's really focused on service, and it's really focused on the end user. So today, the end users, the actual customer and the end user is demanding a lot more from their actual customer. They want everything to be faster. They want it to be more secure. They want to be, they want that white glove service. And so I can, I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll stop there and let you kind of go, Manny. Otherwise, next thing you know, I'll get on to the next subject. So.
Yeah, I might need to hear the question again. No, I'm just kidding. So, I mean, if we're talking about integration, I think that it's not even a luxury anymore in terms of a homogeneous stack that you might own as a software development shop. I mean, even something like email, which I think on its face seems fairly simple, can be fairly complex. There are probably even people here who've run some email platforms themselves. The idea of integration, even at the lowest level of a software development shop, is just integral to providing a good solution for customers now. I've been part of building a homogeneous email platform, and you learn very quickly that just people who can do things that you think are foundational to your business, just better than you. And even today, we outsource, outsource may be the wrong word, we partner, integrate. People are just better at doing parts of email than even we do as an email company. I won't go into the deep details of who those are, but you can find those out pretty easily if you look us up. But I could say even a very quick and easy example is something like email migration. Like email is just migrating one message to another mailbox, like it's over an API, IMAP. We learned actually when we worked together long ago that even building something as simple as an email migration tool, like as an email company, we couldn't even do very well. We couldn't do it. Gmail is the world's most popular email provider, I would guess. They outsource migration. So even something as simple as moving email for an email company is almost impossible today without a deep integration with a provider who specializes in that. And you can go up and down the stack on something like that, and it's a necessity these days. It's not even a luxury.
Well,
I'm sure I answered the question.
Well, no, you did. Well, first of all, well said to you both, right? But then the flip side of that equation, you both just spoke eloquently about how you benefit, how your companies benefit, how the integration partner benefits, and Pat, you touched on this, on how that impacts the end user. Just so happens we have some of your next level partners. We got Joe's Data Center and Rackspace here. So you guys, how have you guys benefited from this partnership ecosystem? Because it's really not just about integration partners and software vendors. You guys are the next level on that. How have you guys benefited? Brian? Sure.
Well, at the end of the day, the end customer isn't buying Office 365 or Open Exchange, or they're not buying a service. They're buying a solution to a very specific problem, and so being able to offer options so that you can hone in on the best solution for the best. Or for the exact problem, its size and shape of what the customer's dealing with is really advantageous. And as Manny was saying, you can't do the best if you don't have focus, and so that's what partnering does for you. You can work with the people who do have that focus and have the best piece, and bring together a portfolio of those, and then offer those. So same thing. It's like as a customer. Right, we're able to work with those vendors that have the absolute best solutions. Bring them together. Work with the customer, our customers, to figure out what their trouble is, and focus on bringing all the ingredients together to make the best sort of recipe, if you will.
Right. Now, before I kick it to you, Joe, was something that is actually we stumbled into this. We have Joe, you're a niche focused provider. And you're sitting next to Rackspace, which is a publicly traded company with how many servers do you guys have?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it's an unknown number of servers and infrastructure,
Yeah.
right? So the flip side of that is, do you see the same benefit, Joe, that Brian just talked about?
Yeah, of course. So a little background on me. My parents actually owned a web hosting company, and so I got my start managing their server. And I was that one-man shop that was having to try to find out all of those different solutions and put those things together, or realizing that I just couldn't possibly do it all. Even when it comes to email, there's facets of that are difficult for a single person to manage. We would actually started outsourcing our stuff to Google because they had much better spam filtering than what we could offer in-house. And as technology has advanced and grown, there's this kind of shift in the industry where everything has gotten much more complex and harder to manage. And so partnerships with companies like Acronis and Virtuoso give us the ability to still offer that full feature set from the ground up, which is necessary for a small MSP. Our typical client is a small business. So we are a data center, and we are in the same data center world, but our focus is different. We aren't primarily enterprise. We're small, medium-sized businesses, MSPs. And so putting all of these things together in a single package using Acronis and Virtuoso lets us still be able to offer that full in solution, even as it's gotten more and more complex as the industry's changed, and give kind of a single management system for being able to still do all of those services that are necessary for an effective hosting solution.
Right. All right, so let's extend this out, because when we're talking about this ecosystem, we've now started with the software and services. We got infrastructure guys. We got everything, but it all boils down to something. And it was either Joe or Brian touched on it for a second ago. We're talking about end users, right? Because ultimately, there's one guy who pays all of our salaries, and that's the small business that's buying the service he ultimately uses. So when you have this multi-tiered, multi-layered channel and ecosystem, is that something that the customer cares about, or they just don't need to know, or it doesn't matter? How are your customers reacting to that?
Well, let's take COVID, for example. That completely changed the game, right? So all of a sudden you had small mom and pops from little towns that they looked at their website as like a business card. It was just a place for them to have their information out there, or maybe they wanted to just be listed in Google, and then all of a sudden they had to close their doors. And so that online presence became the only way that they could actually interface with their clients or sell their products. And so it became critical that they have the highest level and the most advanced solutions for their web hosting that didn't matter to them before. So this is just an overnight shift. And so I think what has been really great is that now all of a sudden when they go to providers that are capable of handling all of those solutions and wrap it up into what is to them just a website being hosted for their business, right? They still get the faster speeds. They still get the advantages of the SEO work that obviously if your website isn't visible in the search engines, what difference does it make? How good your website is. You have to get that traffic driven to you. And those type of things just weren't possible before when you were trying to build each one of those solutions individual. Now that you can wrap the entire hosting into one finished product that can deliver every feature set that's necessary for effective web hosting, even the small mom and pop store can have something that is effective and works well for them.
But now, is there any sales resistance? Do you market to them that I'm using Acronis for this and I'm using this for that, or is there any resistance to that at your customer level?
At the end of the day, I think the customer trusts us as the service provider providing the solution. We use the Acronis and Virtuoso name because it obviously comes with backing of product features and support. And hopefully that question was directed at me and I didn't just step on anybody's toes here. But it's part of a complete solution that we provide. And so it's not just, hey, we're doing everything for you. It's, hey, we're doing everything for you by managing these technology pieces to get you the end solution that you need.
Perfect. And I'm going to kick it over to you, Brian, again, because you focus on the email side for Rackspace. You're in the communication line, right? So all the reports I hear is that the same thing that Joe just talked about at the website level. It was equally experienced in everything from email marketing to email communications because it became critical. Is there anything you want to add and kick on that?
I would just add that it's a first yes, I agree. The expectations of customers at sort of smaller customers, I should say, continue to go up. actually up and down, all customer sizes, the expectations go up. But the things that used to be like just for enterprises tend to go down market over time, and SMBs now want email encryption and these sorts of things that they didn't used to ask for. But also, I think the partnership angle of this, like it only works because there's value creation at every step, and if there's not, then it's an inefficiency that somebody else will come in and serve it better, right, or cheaper, or whatever. And so to the other question about do you talk about the specific solution? I think that's part of that value creation, like at its most direct engagement with the customer level. It's about the value that a service provider is adding is knowing the customer and what their needs are, but even more specifically than that, knowing how they think about and talk about those problems. And this brings in the marketing piece, so that you can position what you're offering in the most effective way. And that may include sort of name dropping, or it may not, right?
Yeah. Okay. Manny, what about as far as challenges? At Open Exchange, are you guys? Is this ecosystem thing? What are the challenges with this whole thing, or is it just smooth sailing and everybody's happy?
I think that sometimes there's maybe even a more emotional challenge than there is a technical challenge. I think that when you're in software development, I've been in software development for a long time, there's a certain amount of hubris that comes around with the idea that you can build everything and you can handle everything and you're the best at everything. And I think today competitors are producing so much faster than they have before. Whether it's your end users or whether it's your customers, they have more buying power and the chance to make better decisions even faster than before. So I think that the challenge might be at first convincing a partner that they could use your help. I was at a talk last year, it was very email focused with lots of big hosters and telcos, and I just asked a question about email specifically and said, how many of you are growing your email resources, basically your email personnel, how many are hiring? No one, of course, raised their hand, and then I asked, well, how many email groups are getting smaller, right? And everybody raised their hand, and so I think that was kind of the realization that, well, we're not putting our best guys on this or best gals on this anymore, and so we're gonna have to really start getting help. I think once you get over that emotional hump of we can do it all, we don't need you, I think it actually does become fairly smooth sailing.
You can do everything, but you really shouldn't do everything, right?
Yeah, and I think the technology would speak for itself. I mean, there are metrics all around something like email. How good are you at blocking spam? How good are you at keeping email up? I think that those metrics speak for themselves. I think sometimes the emotional aspect of it, the pride, I mean, maybe hubris is a strong word, but software development companies generally think they can kind of do it all themselves, and so.
Yeah, if I can add to that, the one way that hubris has sort of manifested for myself, where I've made mistakes in the past, is it can seem like there's a very legitimate, like all of the vendors that are in the market, none of them do this exact thing, and like we know that like this is the thing, right? That's going to make us amazing. And you can sort of like through bias overinflate the importance of that thing, when actually there's a lot of value to be had by working with a partner who's really focused on that. And for that matter, like having a standardized offer that's like repeatable in some way, rather than your sort of special snowflake thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm going to give the same question to you.
So,
Yeah.
So, I mean, the one thing that you're talking about, like a lot of it is, they need help. A lot of times they need help, building solutions. And so I think that there's a couple of different things that I can also speak to. Is one of the things that Joe mentioned was trust. I think that's a key word as far as what people are looking for. So you have the end users, and they, like Joe was talking about, like in the end, like a lot of these end users, they were looking at things as far as, this is something that wasn't necessarily a core part of their business, but it became a core part of their business. So they don't know, how to go about it. So they need somebody they can trust. They need them for DevOps. They need them for MarkOps. You name it. Like, everything is they're relying on somebody else. And so, you have, a lot of the people out there thinking that they can do everything for everybody, but you can't. So you have to realize, hey, I might be able to take 20% of it. And it goes the same thing for our partners. You can't do everything. And it goes the same thing for the end users. The end users need to be able to focus on their core business. They need to make money. And it's the same thing for our partners. They need to be able to focus on what's going to actually make them money. And so that's where it all comes back to trust. Trust your actual, your partners, such as, like Virtuoso. That's what we try to do. We try to work very, very closely with them, so that way we can actually deliver the end solutions. So I think it goes a lot to that keyword. So.
And it's time to market,
Yep.
right? So I mean, when an industry suddenly changes overnight, how quickly can most people be able to adapt to suddenly be providing the solutions that are necessary for those changes? And when you have these valued partnerships with companies that are already doing those things, even if it wasn't a part of your business model before, suddenly you can add those features in and you can start providing those solutions for your customer exactly when they need them. Because if you were trying to build that yourself in-house, regardless if you had the ability to do so and were able to compete with the other vendors that were out there doing so, how quickly could you do that in a market that's changing literally overnight?
And again, just it's important to the actual service provider, and it's important to the end user. The end user, you're talking about with COVID, the example, that this is their business, this is their livelihood. Like they need to be able to generate revenue. And the same thing for the service provider. Like if you're going to take 18 months to roll out a new solution, is it something that you really want to invest that time in, or do you want to start actually generating revenue?
We actually, in our pre-conversation, we touched on this a lot, and the point that we're all honing in on is that, nobody in the world wants to buy a server, right? Nobody in the world wants a server. Nobody does. What they want is what the server can do. Nobody wants any software. They want what the software does for them, right? And so what we're talking about is working within your ecosystem, establishing partnerships and channels with trusted partners allows you to deliver faster and give the customer what they want, what they really want to achieve faster than you can probably do it yourself. Did I sum that up?
Yep.
Yeah, we're providing solutions, not individual products.
Right. Right. Cool.
And that's, I think, more and more of a trend is to provide the complete solution versus just a portion of that. So.
And I'm going to stick on Patrick here and segue a little bit. Virtuoso's been around just, I'm going to say forever, and they're integrated with everybody in the hosting space. But you guys just made a couple of big moves, didn't you, to actually expand your ecosystem?
Yep, absolutely. So both OnApp and Jelastic, we're just over the last few months we made those purchases, and again, it's to broaden our reach, broaden the solution, moving up the stack. We're synonymous for VPS and virtualization, and that's what we've had, been in that space for 20 years. And so while we can do a lot, and we've been doing a lot more the last 4 or 5 years with hybrid infrastructure, which Joe can speak to in detail. So while we've been working on that, over the last 5 years, it's been a core piece of our business. We're also expanding, broadening our reach with the OnApp, and then moving up the stack as well with Jelastic, where they have a lot more, Kubernetes as a service, everything as a service, and a lot of WordPress and things like that. So.
Yeah, now, you've got some things we're cooking too, right, Manny?
We do. I'm here because we have some stuff cooking with Acronis, but actually we can't go into details yet. I will say that Q1 of 2022, we've got some things that we want to announce, but I think it's a little premature. But I'm here, I'm speaking on it, but we're super excited about it.
Yeah.
But probably a little too early to talk in detail about it.
Fair enough. All right. So what? All right. Well, let's just expand. Irregardless of brand names. All right. Let's just kind of go through, because it's Open Exchange is integrated with lots of companies, right?
Sure.
Lots of software, and just list the names for who you're integrated with now.
Yeah, so I think that, it's pretty incredible. We can go even more foundational, which is, I think Open Exchange is maybe a company built on integrations. I don't want to get too pedantic in terms of what email is, but you need an IMAP server to run email. Well, we integrated with a company called Dovecot, which is probably the world's most popular open source IMAP server, and then we acquired them, right? So even just the very foundation of what we did, which is just sending email from one mailbox to another, was based on an integration and an acquisition. Same thing with the company called OpenOffice back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember that company, but we had an acquisition of talent, and we built on the open office base, which was really sort of an integration / acquisition as well. So, we have partners up and down the stack, but even just the very bottom of what it is that we do for email started as really deep integrations and then eventually acquisitions.
Right. Yeah, and Virtuoso, you guys too. I mean, you're on everybody's website. You've searched for Virtuoso, you see everybody's. List some of your integrations.
So similarly, like, obviously the ecosystem and having those integrations is a core part of your business, right. To create the complete solutions, whether or not it's something like, working with the web pros for the end user solutions, the billing solutions, we have multiple partnerships with that. Like, they want the complete solution. Like, you can't just say, oh, okay, here's one part of it. So, and then now it's more and more like we want to, provide the professional services. We want to provide the support and everything to help you deliver that solution.
Well,
so, yeah, go ahead.
And I want to touch on, I think the biggest integration capability of Virtuoso I see is that it's built on OpenStack, and it's got a full OpenStack API. So even when they don't have direct integration with a product, they have the ability to easily have that integration like done. And then some of the integrations that we use directly are like our billing system, WHMCS, and I know a lot of other hosting billing systems too. We were able to just immediately, without changing any of our systems, be able to start selling our products through Virtuoso and Acronis. Acronis has integration with those as well. These acquisitions are actually really exciting for me as an end customer of both Acronis and Virtuoso, because now with OnApp and Gelastics, we have the ability from a hosting standpoint to be able to offer the entire stack, full stack. So us as a MSP / infrastructure provider, we can offer the physical infrastructure underneath. Then on top of that, we have the hypervisor, which is Virtuoso. So now all of a sudden we're running the cloud. Then we've got Acronis, which is providing the backups, our disaster recovery, and our cybersecurity. And then on top of that, even we're able to offer then the actual full hosting solution, because with OnApp we can offer CDN solutions, and then which obviously is a Virtuoso now. And then we can also offer through Gelastics stuff like database as a service. So suddenly we've gone from the very bottom level to a full solution that encompasses everything necessary for web hosting, because all these things integrate already, all these things stack on top of each other and just work perfect. So.
Right. Well said. Just in case for some of you who are not in the hosting business, some of the names that are involved with that. There's the Web Pros brands. That's companies like cPanel. It's companies like Plesk. They make control panels that hosting companies use to take and deploy solutions out to all the individual servers. They have companies like software like WHMCS and HostBill and some of these other ones that are designed to actually build their customers on their behalf. And I think everybody on the stage here has used and deployed and integrated with these to make it easy for hosting companies to deploy all of our solutions out there. And Acronis has done the same thing, and we're adding more. In fact, I wish I could talk more about it too. I'm in the same boat you are. I mean, I've got the roadmap out for all the integrations that are coming, and I'm going to speak extemporaneously because I mentioned this, I think, in the first session today. But I'm new at Acronis, right? But I've been around hosting a long time. And one of the reasons I'm so excited about it is the same development team that's been doing integrations with all these hosting platforms for 20 years. They're the same guys who are doing the integrations on those platforms now. So the development team at Acronis is just super strong. So I know I got those tech guys backing me up. So when I say, hey, you know what, direct admin's coming. And I know it's coming, right? And that's going to be another important piece of the puzzle, and I know it's coming soon. But more on that later. Anyone want to chime in?
Yeah, I just want
I'm sorry, super timely. We actually just did an integration with WHMCS as well. So probably perfect for the conversation.
Yeah, and it goes back to, first, if you can't bill, what use is it? Seriously, everybody wants to be able to charge their customers.
All right, so who doesn't want to bill their customers in the audience?
So that's just one solution, but it really comes back to trying to work with our partners to make sure that they have the integrations they need. And when you talk about security, we're just starting to scratch the surface of what it means to security today. I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger to make sure that one of the things I talk about is 15 years ago, people just wanted to get online. They didn't care about security. They didn't care about performance that much. They just got used to like hearing the screech of starting up their computer. So why do they, care about how fast it's going? So it's really changing as far as like they need that now. They need the performance. They need the security. They want all those things, and they're very, very demanding of that today. So we're seeing that more and more, and I think that the expectations are changing. So the integrations are key. All that, the security is a big part of it, and then having the partnerships where you can really feel confident that you can take the market together is a big part of it.
Yeah, cool, good. Brian, anything you wanted to chip in there? What's coming down the road with Rackspace?
I would just say more on the topic of who you partner with, and I could list a bunch of stuff. A lot of the same things you guys have said, but also instead I'll just add that like in addition to having all of these, we're in this multi-cloud world, so in addition to having partners with all of these clouds, often a common thread is that customers they often have some legacy component. So there's going to be some kind of really almost insurmountable thing to actually leverage these solutions. And so like in deepening the trust and the deeper partnership relationship and all of that, like for those who can offer actual, like professional services and that sort of thing along to actually to leverage all of those offerings is a huge thing. And that's what we're seeing is that we rolled out elastic engineering. There you go. There's something coming down the pipeline. We rolled out something we call elastic engineering, which is exactly that, right? To work with our partners to, another common thread is they're often understaffed to meet the goals that they want to meet. So if you can give them those resources, like sort of a shot in the arm to get across that hurdle, and so they can leverage all these great solutions,
Yeah, it's a huge point, being understaffed. See a lot of providers just don't have, like the team that they need to implement. And again, that's the other reason of finding, providers that you can partner with, because then you can know, okay, I don't have to do it all. Like they have professional services. They have, different resources to take products to market. And then I know we've already talked about it. Manny brought up, right from the beginning is it's, how quickly can you go to market? So.
Yeah. I'm just going to say the same thing. Everybody I know is hiring right now, and so that is another argument for working within your ecosystem, another argument for finding the right partners, because you probably cannot staff up even to attack a new project right now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, you know what? I'll just go through and give everybody a chance to pick a final word, and then I'll open up to see if there's any questions in the audience. If you have a question, start formulating it in your brain. Manny, start in your end. Anything you want to add to the end?
I think, specifically for, let's say, an MSP market, I would say that just integrating and bringing on new services isn't always rainbows and ponies. I mean, it could also be tough. I mean, I think we're making it sound easy. Generally you bring in experts who are really good at stuff. I mean, you got to share in the margin a little bit, right? That sometimes can be a little bit of a non-starter. Sometimes you're giving up a little bit of control as well, right? But I think in the world where customer experience reigns supreme, I mean, those are sometimes myopic challenges. You have to look at the longer tail of what it is you're trying to accomplish. So, I don't want to make it sound like every integration is perfect and that all you should do is have a stack of integrations. There's some sort of best benefits and risk analysis that you got to do to make sure it works for you.
Cool. Brian?
Yeah, I guess my sort of closing remark would be that focus is the essence of strategy, and like if your strategy isn't helping you know what to say no to, then it's probably not very helpful, right, to you and your team. And how that relates to partnerships is that this is a way that you can sort of have your cake and eat it too, right? By leveraging partners who have that focus in a different area, you can kind of shore up the sacrifices that you're making so that you can have a focused offering.
Joe?
Yeah, so I think it's about picking the correct partners. And one of the reasons that Acronis and Virtuoso has worked so well for me is that it allows me to offer the full stack like I talked about earlier, but on top of that, I can utilize my own infrastructure, which means I can go ahead and make margins myself on the products that I normally did as a value add. And then on top of that, I leave room for my resellers or my MSPs to be able to add their own service on top of it and make margins as well. You know, when we talk about some of these hyperscaler clouds and how expensive they are, one of the problems for MSPs is they don't have any way to be able to make any money inside of that solution other on the actual hosting itself. And so having these correct partners that let me leverage my own infrastructure leaves room there for those MSP partners to be able to make profit as well.
Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of different things. You know, one, you know, it's the company that you keep. You know, like, you know, one, you want to be able to trust your partners, and you know, you want to be able to, you know, just really rely on them. Like when things are, you know, going the wrong way, when you need resources, when you need help, when you need support, and it goes both ways. You know, and Joe, you know, one of the things that we also do is we like to innovate. We like to try new things. You know, and that's one of the things that I think is important is to have that level of trust, saying, hey, let's try something different. You know, some of the things that we're working on is using our infrastructure and building a modern hosting, you know, solution on top of it. You know, which is, you know, pretty much something that you can do somewhat out of the box, but needs some things. So it's like, you know, forming that type of relationship with the different, you know, your partners is a key, and I think it goes a long way to the actual end user. So, you know, if you have that type of white glove relationship, you know, it goes both ways with the partner and the actual, you know, like in our case, you know, the software provider, and then on top of it, that same, you know, philosophy reaches the end user, and that's what it's all about, is making sure that you're servicing their needs as well.
All right, so let me see if I can tie a bow on that. Focus on the end user and solving their problems. Work and develop on what you do best. Find trusted partners to fill in the rest of the missing pieces, and don't waste on any time on what you don't need.
Yep, definitely.
Well, we could have done this whole session in like 30 seconds. All right, great. Does anybody have any questions for the panel? You know, and the reason you don't is because we were just that good.
This isn't so much a question. Full disclosure, I do work at Joe's Data Center here, but this will be very open and fair here. And then I just want to thank pretty much every company up there has contributed largely to open source. Rackspace, of course, with OpenStack. Virtuoso just recently open sourced their WHMCS module. Virtuoso contributed to OpenVZ and the VZ kernel. Open Exchange, you guys are doing a lot of GPL. Like, I just want to thank everybody for that. That helps us a lot when we're smaller, and we want to use some of these components that you put that information out there, and everybody benefits.
Okay, I'm just going to repeat that a little bit of that. It's well said, because I'm on the microphone, and so thank you for bringing that up. Sure. What he commented on is that not only do we partner an ecosystem and develop and channel when we make money at it, but everybody up here has actually contributed to the open source community and to make everybody better. So when there's no money involved, and that just shows the level of cooperation that the entire industry has advanced to over the years. Well said. Is it good?
Yes, thank you.
No, thank you for recognizing that. All right, so does anybody else have anything else? Anything else? Well, please. I'm sorry, could you speak up?
You mentioned about email migration tool. Is there any recommendation for
I will be happy to talk with you after, and I'll have a couple of recommendations for you.
Right. So
There's different for different scenarios, and we use one in one scenario. I've used others for other scenarios. I've got a few that I'd be happy to talk with you about.
And her question was, what email migration tool might Manny recommend? And that's a good personalized discussion.
Yeah, and I'll recommend this tool. Don't build it yourself.
We can all agree with that.
Right. So anybody who's listening online, or get a hold of Manny, he'll give you the best advice on what you need. Right.
Sure.
Perfect. Anybody else have anything? Well, in that case, please, do me a favor, say thank you to my panelists, because they've all been great, and I really appreciate them coming. Now remember, tomorrow, Flickr 1 is the party room. Make sure you come back here. Tell everybody. There's the reception. You just say, hey, Flickr 1 was where all the action was, and get more people to come with me, okay? Cheers. Thank you for coming. Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.